It started like any ordinary evening inside a small Mart, until a police K9 froze in front of a teenager and refused to move. Shoppers watched in silence as the dog locked onto the boy's pockets, ignoring every command, refusing to back away. What the officers pulled out moments later didn't just surprise them, it connected to something far bigger, something no one in that store could have expected. But the real shock came with what else they discovered next. Something that left everyone speechless. Here's the full story. But before we roll it out, tell me in the comments your favorite dog breed, and make sure you've hit subscribe. The fluorescent lights of the neighborhood Mart flickered faintly against the glass doors as dusk settled outside. Customers moved in and out, carrying small grocery bags, unaware that something was about to unfold inside that would leave everyone shaken. A quiet evening routine was about to become the center of an unusual police response, one led not by officers but by a highly trained K9. The dog, known in the community as Rex, was part of the local police department's K9 unit. His handler had been called to the Mart on what initially seemed like a minor disturbance. Reports described a teenager lingering near the entrance, hands deep in his pockets, his body tense and unsettled. Most saw it as harmless, maybe just a restless kid with nowhere to go. But the store manager had sensed something different. There was a heaviness about the boy's presence, a strange energy that did not match typical loitering. To calm fears, officers were dispatched to ensure everything was safe. Rex entered the Mart with his handler, his paws steady against the tiled floor. From the moment they stepped inside, Rex's demeanor changed, his body stiffened, nose twitching in quick bursts, tail held rigid. The dog scanned the room with intensity until his gaze locked on the teenager near the refrigerated aisle. The boy looked startled at the sight of the K9 but did not move. His eyes darted briefly toward the exit, then back to the floor as if torn between staying put and running. Rex advanced slowly, his breathing heavy, each step deliberate. Then it happened. He stopped cold in front of the teenager and refused to move. The officers tried coaxing him forward, but Rex planted himself firmly, his chest low to the ground, ears pressed forward, refusing to obey commands to back away. He was locked onto the boy with a certainty that only years of training and instinct could explain. What made the scene more unsettling was the silence. Rex did not bark at first. He simply stared at the teenager's pockets, his nose hovering close as though something inside demanded his full attention. The boy froze, standing still under the dog's unwavering watch. Customers began whispering from behind shelves, unsure whether to leave or stay. The tension was undeniable, yet no one knew what could be hiding in those pockets that made a K9 so certain. The officers surrounding the scene exchanged cautious looks. Rex had worked on countless narcotics cases, missing person searches, and even explosive detection sweeps, and he rarely gave false alerts. His refusal to move meant only one thing. Something significant was hidden with the teenager, something worth uncovering. But what could it be? The boy's clothes were worn but not unusual. His sneakers were scuffed, his jacket oversized, and his pockets appeared stuffed, though it was impossible to see what was inside. Some speculated it could be drugs. Others feared something more dangerous. Yet there was something about the way the boy's shoulders trembled, his body rigid as if caught in an invisible grip, that suggested there was more to the story than anyone realized. Rex suddenly let out a low growl, breaking the silence. The sound made customers retreat further, and the boy's head lowered as though bracing for what was to come. The officer stepped forward cautiously, aware that one wrong move could escalate the situation. They had to balance the possibility of danger with the visible fear on the boy's face. As one officer moved closer, Rex remained unmoving, his nose now pointing directly at the bulge in the boy's right pocket. It was clear he wanted something pulled out. The handler gave the signal to wait, knowing Rex's instincts had never failed before. In that frozen moment, time seemed to stretch. The boy shifted slightly, and something in his pocket made a faint metallic sound. That was enough to deepen the officer's concern. Whispers of weapons spread through the onlookers, though no one dared say it too loudly. The boy still did not move, his body locked as if trapped between fear and a secret he could not share. The handler knelt slightly to Rex's level, reading his body language carefully. Every detail mattered: the rigid tail, the unwavering focus, the deep breaths through his nose. Rex was not merely suspicious, he was certain. Whatever lay in those pockets was the reason he would not leave. But here was the true question. Was Rex signaling danger? Or was there something else, something hidden that might rewrite the assumptions everyone was making? The suspense only deepened when the boy's left hand twitched inside his other pocket. This time, Rex barked sharply, a single forceful bark that echoed through the aisles. The entire Mart froze. Cashiers abandoned their registers, shoppers left their carts, and the store manager gripped the counter tightly. The sound was unmistakable. Rex had confirmed his alert. Officers moved in carefully, their training urging them to act, but their instincts reminding them of the boy's youth. He was no hardened criminal, at least not by appearance. His face was pale, his lips pressed tightly as though holding back words. The more they looked, the more it seemed as though he was not hiding malice, but something else entirely, something he could not bring himself to reveal. Why would a teenager stand frozen in a Mart, clutching his pockets with such intensity? Why would he allow a canine to pin him down without running, without protest? And why did Rex refuse to leave him, even when ordered? Every detail hinted that the answer lay not in the boy's defiance, but in what he carried. The officers prepared to search, but before they could reach forward, Rex stepped even closer, pressing his nose against the fabric of the boy's jacket pocket, then pulling back sharply as though demanding urgency. The moment had arrived. Something was about to be uncovered, and yet just before the search began, another layer of mystery unfolded. An older man who had been lingering near the back of the store suddenly turned and slipped out the doors. His presence had gone unnoticed until now, but his hasty departure raised even more questions. Was he connected to the boy? Had Rex locked onto the teenager as part of something larger? The officers briefly debated whether to pursue the man, but Rex's focus made the choice clear. The answers were in the boy's pockets, and that was where the truth would begin. The tension in the air was unshakable, curiosity clawing at every witness. What could be hidden that made a canine refuse to move? What connection might it have to the stranger who had just slipped away? And would the truth bring danger or something no one had expected? The officers closed in. Rex growled once more. The secret of the boy's pockets was about to surface, and whatever it was, it would connect every dot that had been laid out. The store had fallen into absolute silence. Every eye was fixed on the boy and the dog that refused to let him go. Rex stood rigid, his harness taut, his body angled protectively as if blocking any escape. The air was thick with unease, and yet beneath the tension there was something else. A strange sense of anticipation, as if the dog already knew the story that no one else could see. The officers closed in carefully. One officer extended a gloved hand toward the teenager's pocket, but before he touched the fabric, Rex's growl deepened. It wasn't aggression, it was urgency, a warning that something important rested in those pockets and needed to be handled with care. Finally, the boy's trembling fingers pulled free of the pocket himself. Slowly, shakily, he revealed a small, crumpled item wrapped in cloth. At first glance, it didn't look threatening. It wasn't a weapon, nor did it match what anyone had expected. The boy held it tightly against his chest, unwilling to release it. The officers gestured gently, and with hesitation, the boy extended his hand. The cloth unwrapped, revealing something far more puzzling than dangerous. Inside lay a small metal keychain, worn, scratched, but holding a strange symbol engraved on its surface. It didn't appear valuable, yet Rex's nose pressed hard toward it, sniffing deeply before barking again, sharp and insistent. The crowd whispered. Why would a canine respond with such conviction to something so ordinary? The officers examined the keychain under the fluorescent lights. It bore a crest, unfamiliar at first glance, but it carried markings that suggested it belonged to something more official than a teenager's trinket. The boy's lips trembled, and he shoved his other hand deeper into the opposite pocket, his body shaking with the weight of a secret he hadn't spoken. That was when the second reveal came. From the left pocket, officers carefully withdrew a folded paper envelope, its edges torn and stained. Inside were several photographs, black and white, grainy, clearly aged. The photos showed a much younger child, smiling beside a man whose face was half-shadowed. On the back of one photograph, faint handwriting could be seen, an address scrawled hastily as though written in fear. Rex barked again, his tail striking the ground like a drumbeat. The boy's eyes filled with tears, and though no words came, the pictures told their own story. This wasn't about crime or mischief. It was about something hidden, something connected to the past. But the mystery only thickened when one officer recognized the symbol on the keychain. It matched an emblem tied to an unsolved investigation years earlier, a burglary case that had gone cold, where evidence had vanished without explanation. The emblem had belonged to a small organization suspected of trafficking stolen goods. Yet here it was, in the hands of a teenager, tucked away as if meant to stay hidden forever. Why would a boy be carrying pieces linked to something so old? The officers began piecing fragments together. The older man who had slipped out of the Mart just moments earlier came back into focus. Could he have been watching to ensure the boy delivered something? Was he connected to the emblem? And more importantly, had Rex sensed not only the physical items in the pockets, but also the trail of danger tied to them? Customers in the Mart whispered nervously. Some thought the boy had been used as a messenger. Others feared he was caught in something far bigger than himself. But one thing was certain. Rex's refusal to move had uncovered a thread that was now unraveling faster than anyone could control. The boy finally lifted his head. His face was pale, but his eyes spoke of fear mixed with desperation. His silence weighed heavier than words, as if every detail he carried was too dangerous to say out loud. He clutched the photographs tightly, unwilling to let them go. Officers guided him gently toward the back of the Mart, away from the gathering crowd. Rex followed closely, never taking his eyes off the boy, as though his very presence offered a form of protection. The items were bagged as evidence, yet the weight of their meaning lingered heavily in the room. What were the photographs really showing? Who was the man beside the child? And why was the emblem tied to a case everyone thought had been forgotten? Just when the officers thought they had reached the core of the mystery, another twist emerged. As they prepared to leave, a store employee hurried forward, her face pale. She explained that the boy had been seen before, always at odd hours, never shopping, always watching the doors. And each time a different older man had been nearby, sometimes the one who had just slipped out. The boy wasn't loitering for no reason. He was waiting, holding something entrusted to him, though whether by choice or force, no one could yet tell. The officers realized they weren't dealing with a simple incident. This was a puzzle built from fragments of the past, resurfacing through the hands of a frightened teenager. Rex had not only detected the presence of the items, but also, in his own way, revealed the truth that the boy was a link in a chain no one had noticed until now. The night deepened as the investigation shifted. The boy was brought safely outside, Rex at his side, while another team of officers spread out into the neighborhood, hoping to locate the man who had fled. The photographs and keychain were sent for analysis, and questions swirled relentlessly. Why had the boy been chosen to carry them? What secret were those images hiding? And what did the emblem mean for an old case that was never solved? Rex remained close to the teenager, his body calm but watchful, as if understanding the boy's fear better than anyone else. The dog had refused to move because he knew the pockets held more than objects. They held answers, links that would change everything once the truth surfaced. Yet the final piece had not been revealed. The boy still guarded his silence, and deep inside everyone sensed there was one more secret hidden beyond the photographs and emblem, something the boy had not yet surrendered. The officers knew part of the mystery was solved, but the most important dots were still waiting to be connected. Rex's eyes never left the teenager. Whatever came next, it was clear the story was far from over. The night air outside the Mart was heavy with expectation. Patrol cars lined the street, their lights painting red and blue against the darkened windows. Inside one of the cruisers, the teenager sat quietly, clutching the photographs like they were the only anchor keeping him steady. Rex, the police K9 who had refused to leave his side, sat just outside, his sharp eyes fixed on the boy as though he understood the storm of fear and secrets weighing on him. The officers had questions stacked higher than answers. The emblem on the keychain tied directly to a group that had once been under investigation for smuggling. The photographs pointed toward a family connection, but they raised more puzzles than clarity. And the man who had slipped out of the Mart at the exact moment Rex confronted the boy remained missing. A shadow on the edge of a story now unraveling in front of them. For hours, the officers worked to piece fragments together. The emblem's design was traced to a warehouse district that had long been abandoned. Old reports confirmed the location had been used as a cover for illegal trade before being shut down, but the case had collapsed when evidence vanished, and with it the chance for justice. Now, in the hands of a trembling teenager, evidence had resurfaced. The photographs were the first true key. The child in them was younger, maybe 7 or 8, but his features bore resemblance to the teenager now sitting in the cruiser, and beside him stood a man, his face shadowed but distinct enough for trained investigators to notice details, a scar running across his cheek, a build that matched descriptions in old police files. This was no ordinary picture. It was proof of connection between the boy and a man once suspected of running the smuggling operation. The missing man from the Mart was no stranger. He was the same individual captured in those faded photographs. The realization struck hard. The teenager had been carrying pieces of evidence that could tie the fugitive back to crimes long forgotten. Yet the boy's silence still held firm. He refused to speak even as officers pressed gently for answers. His fear was too great, his loyalty bound to something deeper. It was Rex who finally broke through. As the boy sat in the cruiser, Rex was allowed to approach. The dog pressed his head gently against the boy's knee, eyes soft, body calm. The boy's rigid shoulders eased for the first time. In that quiet moment, something shifted. The silence cracked, not with words but with trust. The teenager finally pulled a final object from his jacket, one he had hidden even from the officers during the search. It was a worn notebook, the cover frayed, the pages inside marked with scribbles, numbers, and names. Every entry detailed movements, transactions, and coded notes connected to the old smuggling ring. The boy had been carrying the very ledger investigators once believed destroyed. The truth tumbled out piece by piece. The boy had not been part of the crimes. He was the son of a woman who had once lived close to the suspects. Before she passed away, she had given him the photographs and notebook, telling him they were important, but never explaining why. She had hoped he would be old enough one day to understand, but fear of the men connected to them had kept him silent. The man who fled the Mart had been following him for weeks, waiting for a chance to reclaim the evidence. The boy hadn't known where to go or who to trust. That night, with the items still hidden in his pockets, he wandered into the Mart, unsure of his next step. He had been trapped in fear until Rex refused to let him go. The K9's instincts had not only revealed the physical items, but also uncovered the boy's silent cry for help. Rex had seen what no one else could, a teenager carrying the weight of the past, desperate for protection. As the investigation unfolded, officers moved quickly. The emblem keychain led them straight to the old warehouse, where traces of smuggling activity had quietly reignited. The notebook provided proof, and the photographs confirmed identities. The fugitive who had slipped away from the Mart was tracked and eventually captured, his ties to the crimes finally exposed. The boy, once viewed with suspicion, was instead recognized as the bridge to solving a case that had haunted the department for years. His pockets had carried not danger, but long-lost truth. In the weeks that followed, the community learned of what happened inside the Mart that night. The boy was placed under care, away from the men who had sought to control him. With the help of officers, counselors, and Rex himself, he began to find stability again. For the first time in years, he felt safe. The story closed not with fear but with gratitude. Rex was honored for his role, his instincts celebrated as the turning point in an investigation that had seemed impossible to solve. The K-9 had done more than detect objects. He had sensed the presence of something hidden within the boy, something crying out to be uncovered. The mystery had stretched across years, but in the end, every dot connected. The emblem linked to the smuggling ring. The photographs tied the fugitive to his past. The notebook carried the final evidence. And the boy's silence, once misunderstood, was broken not by force but by trust, built with a dog who refused to leave his side. The Mart where it all began returned to normal in time, but those who had witnessed that night never forgot the scene. The K-9 planted firmly in front of a teenager, refusing to move, refusing to let danger win. The truth that emerged from those pockets not only solved a mystery but gave a frightened boy the chance at a new beginning. And Rex, the hero who saw what no one else could, left behind a reminder that sometimes the deepest secrets are uncovered not by suspicion, but by loyalty, instinct, and an unshakable bond. The case was closed, justice was served, and the ending, built from fragments of fear, became a story of safety, resolution, and hope. And that's how a single K-9 uncovered a mystery no one saw coming. Stories like this happen once and then vanish. You don't want to miss the next one. So hit like, tap subscribe, and stay with us because the next story could be even bigger.